Hey, it's Kellen.
And of course, A.L.
And today, our guest, all the way from Seattle, Washington, where I'm at right now, folks, where it's cold and kind of gloomy. We have Whitney L. Anderson. While we do this, I want you to go follow her while you listen and watch for Whitney L. Anderson, who does fine art in a very unique way. I think you are going to get the game today on how your dreams can become reality. And we just welcome you, Whitney, to the show. How are you doing?
Thank you. I'm doing great. I'm excited for Christmas break and go see my family, but I'm probably going to work on some artwork at the same time. So I'm always working on something, no matter where I'm going.
Well, that's awesome. We like to break down the game on Diversified Game of how does one go from creating art, and your art is unique because you're using paper mache, and then go from going online to then opening up a gallery and being able to make that happen, because we know there are so many artists out there and they're like, is it ever going to happen for me where I learn how to monetize my art? Tell us your story.
Well, I think just I think just having a thirst for it really helps too. I've always had a day job to help out with my expenses. I never wanted to be a starving artist. So I've always had like a day job to help me out. And I had this vision in my early 20s of having a gallery with my signature on top of a building. And, those dreams kind of faded to the background when I started, just getting involved with other things and, focusing on my art, of course, but not knowing if that day was ever going to come, because I live in Seattle and the rent is not cheap. And even though I wasn't a starving artist and I had this day job, it's hard to make ends meet and have another expense like that. But I made it happen just a few months ago. I had the money to do it. I had a lot of commission work coming in. So it just was a good time in my life, that I found this gallery space and I had the expenses to put money down on it. And God was just telling me, oh, it's the right time, do it. I'm a yacht stewardess for my part-time job. So I've worked with a lot of rich people and, just kind of like shadowed their, business decision-making and whatnot. And I remember this one guy said that you're never going to be 70% sure of anything that you decide in life. So if you're at least 70%, go for it. We're not going to be 100% sure about everything, we decide to do. So I think I was 90% sure in this case that I would get this gallery, and I was pretty happy about that. But in other ways, I've also made risks, and it's paid off. But yeah, you're pretty much alone as an artist. You're paving your own way. It's not like becoming a lawyer or becoming a doctor. There's one path to do it. As an artist, you kind of have to pave your own way, kind of like your art style. It's as unique as that. And you just need to have confidence in it. And, it is good to take the advice of mentors and, some of your contemporaries around you that you would like to mimic their path. But really, it's quite a unique path, and no two paths are the same of getting artwork out there. So I really utilized Instagram and, the social media boom of today. Being a millennial, you got to really utilize that, and just making connections with people. And you never know if they know someone that needs artwork. So it's just a lot of word of mouth and just building up my social capital over time. I mean, that's what business is about. It's not just about your product. It's about building relationships with people, and, that pays dividends down the road, because they can, look up what you're doing, remember you, and then, they'll buy a piece down the road. In sales, it takes, I think, 7 times exposure to something to sell it. So it's just being exposed over time. I think people have seen my skill levels rise, and just the passion and the drive I have for it. It hasn't, lingered, because there's a lot of artists out there that start off, really strong, and then they linger and they're not quite as studious with their work, or maybe, they get married and have a family. There's other things too. So I have not had either of those yet. And it's kind of been like a machine the past few years, just producing and getting my name out there, and we'll see where it goes. And just, riding on this wave. That's basically what I'm doing.
Excellent, excellent, excellent. So, Whitney, here's a question for you. What was your aha moment? Oprah talks a lot about having aha moments, and once you decided to make the decision to go full steam ahead, when did you, in terms of like your medium, in terms of your process for creating your artwork, I see that you draw, you create these magnificent collages. When did it all kind of click for you?
Well, I didn't start doing collage until about 4 years ago. But before that, I'm still an acrylic painter. I tell people, so I started drawing when I was 3 years old. I started painting faces when I was 15 years old. And then I started collage when I was about 27. So, just having that foundation, thousands of hours of art, drawing, painting, that really laid the foundation for being a good, realistic collage artist. And I think what sets me apart from other collage artists, which is what people find so novel, because collage art is not novel. You hashtag collage artists, collage art into Instagram, you get, 500,000 hashtags that come up. I think what differentiates me is that it doesn't look like a collage from far away. It looks like a painting. And then when you get up close, it just becomes a different medium. People realize it's collage. And then people even question me if some of it's painted. They wonder if I paint some of the cutouts to make it so connected and smooth looking. And I was like, no, that's the illusion. It's 100% hand cut out recycle magazine. So yeah, your question about my moments, I guess I've had a few moments. I think the moment that I knew that I was destined to become a good artist, because it's really such a personal thing, and sometimes you can get knocked down, and people weren't receptive to your work, especially in your mid-20s. You just don't know what's going on. You don't know really if this is the path, what's going to happen. And I just want to be married and have kids. I just kind of that type of traditional girl inside. I always have been. I haven't been this entrepreneurial business go-getter. That's probably happened by default. And I did grow up in a very hardworking family. My dad's a fisherman in Alaska and self-employed, so I always grew up with this hustle mentality. But I didn't know if I was ever going to utilize it, and that's what I've been doing over the past several years. But when I was living in New York City when I was 25, I went there to get my art out, and I just didn't really have that many connections, and I wasn't at the skill level right now. So, but it was a good learning process, and I also learned about another individual in art history who we have a lot of similarities. I went to the Guggenheim Museum, and I was watching this video on Andy Warhol, and they brought up the fact that he died February 22nd, 1987. And I turned my head and I was like, wait a minute. I was born February 22nd, 1987. And then I started realizing these other things, our initials are swapped. His are AW, mine are WA. He's a guy, I'm a girl. And, as a as a pop artist, we're the antithesis of each other. And I think he really turned the art world on its head. As far as just his favorite quote is, art is anything you can get away with. And people have ran with that phrase through the last several decades. And we see what the high art world looks like. And it's just kind of, it's almost run its course. And so I think as an artist, like, I'm trying to turn that around. And in that moment, when I found out we had those similarities, it was almost like, wow, I feel like history is passing the torch to me, something. I know that sounds corny, but like, I just felt like I've always like wanted to keep doing art, but that fact right there, whenever I was in a slump afterwards, I would remember that. And I'm like, that's something special, you need to run with this and never give up. So that's what I've been doing. And I discovered collage like 4 years ago. And I think that really enriched me as a pop culture artist, because I'm using pop magazines to create pop cultural icons. So it's like a layer on layer of pop art that I'm doing. And I think that for some of the high moments of being a collage artist is tagging some of the famous people that I've done, like Cindy Crawford, Helena Christensen, Ken Griffey Jr. I've had these people comment back on the artwork. So it's really cool that I've had that direct connection with these people. And that's the real motivator, for them to notice your work online. But yeah, I think just, there's so many little highs, and I just don't take anything for granted. I'm just happy to have clients, and I'm happy to do this almost full time now. It's a real blessing.
So I don't know if you heard that, AL, but I see like a way to go viral if she was to come out and say, I am the reincarnation of Andy Warhol with that story.
Word.
Now your believer friends at the church will say, what are you serious? But the rest of the world would say, yes, she is. That totally makes sense. So yeah. Just throw
maybe
that.
You can help me with that.
Maybe we'll see. We have to talk, because how far do you want to take this? Because one thing, AL and I are, we're consultants, we're marketers, we're this and that, but we always want to tell the artist, make sure whatever moves you make, negative or positive, you can live with them, because our job is to have progress. And we can get you progress, but sometimes people, say, I can't live with that. But I think that is such an awesome story to be told. And I mean, it could even, you could, put that in your one sheet or whatnot, just so maybe the reader can take it how they want to, depending on their beliefs. We don't just like to get the game, we like to give it. But I love that story. Can you talk about, though, and I asked you this at your gallery, and I was quiet, because you guys know I'm a shy guy. I was quiet some of the time, because there were things I wanted to ask you fresh here. But one of the things I was asking you about is, how do you battle between making a beautiful Tupac piece that you have, or the Cindy Crawford piece, versus, something that you might be like, I want to do whatever. I might want to do whatever, but I know that this piece is going to get eyeballs, whether it's online or in my gallery. How do you battle that as an artist?
Well, you're putting in human faces, and for the size of Tupac, that's like a 4x6 foot. I like going big. That's like 40 to 50 hours. So that's like a big chunk of my life. The fact is that all these individuals they're very nostalgic to me. So each of them means something, and I don't give myself a hard time or battle with doing them, because I've always kind of wanted to do them. I have a wide variety of people that I like to do. And sometimes, you know, at like a recent gallery exhibit in Seattle, you know, people would ask me like, so what do all these individuals have in common? Like, what inspires you to do this one and then that one? And it's like, I just have, I just think they're unique individuals and they've impacted me in certain ways. And why I do famous people is because of that. And then aesthetics, there's something about them, like their essence. And then I love the challenge. Like if you think about 7 billion people out there and growing, you have to create someone who everyone knows in the world. So you better do a damn good job. And I love that challenge. Like I used to be an athlete growing up, and I think I've carried over that work ethic, that challenging subject, and it's always been me against myself, you know. I was an individual athlete. I did ski racing, I did running. I was never a part of a team, consequently. So I think I was always competing against myself. And same with art, that skill just kind of transferred over, and that's what I use in my artwork. I'm always challenging myself and always trying to work towards my best. I always know I can do better, you know. I'm my worst critic inside. Worst or best critic? I guess you could say best critic, because it's what propels me to get better. By saying there's something that I could have done better. And worst critic is just not stopping to smell the roses. You know, I have to remember to do that too. But okay, so back to Tupac. I think I might have answered your question. Yeah, I just have like a long list of people that I want to do. But also some people pop out of the blue. Like I was reading a motivational book the other day, and they brought up Cal Ripken Jr. And I knew he was, you know, a famous baseball player floating around in my head. That's all I knew, but I didn't know why. And then I found out this guy, you know, hit 2,132 consecutive games. That just blew my mind. And just the work ethic that just really inspired me, because I'm kind of a workhorse too. But yeah, for someone not to miss any games in his whole career, it's truly amazing. So I did a recent portrait of him, and I plan on getting it into Baltimore with some connections I have. So yeah, I enjoy doing each portrait I've done. They're kind of like my babies in a way, you know. Each is very special, and yeah, I don't know what's going to happen, but I picture having like a face exhibit in New York City early March. So maybe A.L. can come to that. That's my plan. I'm coming to New York City this spring, so I'll be showcasing several of my iconic portraiture there, and just actualizing this dream that, you know, I foresaw for myself 10 years ago, 10 years ago, when I was heard about Andy Warhol and that connection. So I think I'm coming back at a really opportune time, and I've really refined my skill levels and gotten my name out, and just have everything lined up. So I'm excited.
Excellent. Count me in. If it has to do with art, I'm all in there.
All right. I will definitely give you the information.
Perfect.
Well, can you talk about, you know, as an artist, and we call ourselves, and it was the Why Blue Matters team that A.L. is the owner of. They created this thing called P-Artist, and so we call ourselves P-Artist, and
I love it.
And we're creatives who, you know, work on various projects, and we have our own as well. But how do you deal with the, and I know you're a believer, I know what church you go to, creating something that sometimes some folks, and I don't want to just say older folks because prudes run in all ages, but might say, wow, I see that art, but it has some type of nudity. Keep in mind, at the same time, they'll go to Europe or go to, Brussels and eat mussels and see the little boy pissing and be like, that's wonderful art. But have you ever battled with that, as an artist and a believer?
Yeah, I mean, for example, I'm really close with my grandma, and she's pretty conservative, and I can't let that stuff get in my way because, God designed the human body, and I actually am quite modest, though, compared to other artists. Like, I actually opted out of figure drawing classes in college because I didn't feel like staring at naked people. It kind of made me feel uncomfortable. So when I do semi-naked people, that's just, I think that's definitely a form of art. And it's such a fine line between being provocative and being classy, some of this European artwork, So it's just knowing your intent. And if people out there want to take it in a negative way, they're too one-dimensional to begin with. They're not looking at things in another way. And I'm not saying subjective versus objective. I think they're just too one-dimensional. And, when you see a promiscuous picture, something naked versus a classy picture, I think as thinking human beings, human common sense, you don't need to have like a high skill level in your mind, or just like trying to denote the meaning. I think it's just ignorance. Sometimes people just need to think better, and it's common sense that one thing is more classy over another. So I don't really let that get to me. I did in my early 20s. You think about what other people think of you, and I think that's something every 20-something-year-old has to get over, is like, I'm not going to worry about what other people think of me. And as an artist, whenever I put my stuff out online, when I started doing that in my 20s, I was always wondering how people would react. I would always get nervous. I wouldn't be able to sleep at night. But now I just don't care. I don't care what anyone else thinks. And that's the beauty of getting older too, especially as a creative. You can't think of that, or you won't propel yourself into new territory. So I think that's the beauty of what I do. And, you can't put me in a box either. I'm a very versatile artist to begin with. And then I think a lot of people like that. They come to my page, and some people think, oh, is this like a gallery? Are you putting up other people's artwork? And it's like, no, it's all my work. So that's how much I switch around with subject matter and just doing different things. So
that's super awesome. That's super awesome. Totally dig it. Whitney, we're going to peel back the layers a little bit in terms of the psyche and mind of you. When you're creating art, or when you're not creating art, what are some of the things that you do in order just to keep the creativity flowing? Do you listen to music, watch movies, you read books?
Yeah, I'll listen to a ton of music, podcasts, and Bible sermons, like a little bit of everything, just to keep some background noise. And since I don't really interact with people as my job, I enjoy hearing people in the background. So I'll do that, or I'll call my family up or friends, talk on speaker. There's not that many silent moments. It's just good to keep my mind stimulated in that way, and it helps the hours go by, because these projects do take a while.
they take about, some of them can take AL like 50 hours, you know, some shorter, but that's amazing. Can you talk about, like, how do you prepare to get all the, like, because you know you have to find your material to create. It's not like you're painting it. So how do you know that you have enough material to create something?
Well, I do it as I go, and basically I have the photograph. So like, let's say Tupac. For that one, I work on the ground. I have a computer right near me, or my phone, and I'll have his photograph right there. So I will look at the photograph and freehand the drawing. I'll freehand it with like pencil. And so that's the base of the collage. So I know like where to place all the squares and whatnot. So you need to get your base right, or it will be off in the end, and you're going to have to like do plastic surgery, as they say, like switch. It's like, you know, sometimes build a whole new eye because maybe it's a millimeter off, and that's not fun. That's not fun at all. But yeah, it's important to go always get my sketch right in the very beginning, and then I scan the photograph. I actually keep the photograph on my wallpaper or on my screensaver on my phone. So when I'm out during the day, I'm always looking at it. It's imprinting in my mind. It's picking up all the textures and the colors that I need to look for, so that when I go to magazines, I know exactly what to look for. So my brain kind of scans the photograph, and it picks up hundreds of different colors and textures and gradients that I'm going to be looking for in magazines. So I flip through magazines, and my brain just knows right away, like, oh, that part right there, it's going to go towards like the lower lip. Like, that's just how my brain works after thousands of hours. Like the average brain doesn't work this way. And I don't know if I'm using a different part of my brain than other people, or maybe I'm using the same parts. I'm just exercising them more than the average person. They haven't done a brain scan on me yet, but that's kind of the way it works. And so I'm flipping through several magazines. I'm tearing out these pages. Maybe there's just 1 square inch of texture I need in one page. My brain knows it. Like, yes, right there, use that. So I put that in the pile. I try to be organized with my piles, and I can't have 50 piles hanging out on my living room. You know, there's just not enough room. Things get crazy fast. So I just work with the sections that I can, and just try to stay organized. But I look through magazines as I go with big portraits, because I can't have all these piles laying out. So I work in sections, or I try to. But then again, I'll flip through a magazine and I'll see like some texture that belongs way across the page of the portrait. So like, really, I can't just work in one section. It's kind of hard. I'll see textures that correspond to all across the portrait, and that's kind of the way I work. And I think it's different, like for a lot of people. Even when I draw, I draw like the whole picture, like the outline, and I'm always working on different parts, not remember just one section. So that's just kind of my style. And I've noticed in drawing videos of other artists out there on Instagram and whatnot, people start with like one section and then they build out. And I've never been that way. I don't know if you've seen art video, like fast forward, those type of tutorial videos of people like drawing or painting, but they'll start with like one section and then they'll spread out from there. Whereas with me, I start with, I'm working on the whole as I go. Like, I'm working on different sections from the very beginning. So I think that's also what sets me apart as far as like my style of working. I think that sets me apart from other artists. So, but yeah, I just have a ton of glue sticks, scissors, and magazines, and I get to work. And sometimes I'll work like 10 hours on a portrait. Of course, I need to get up, and stretch my legs and kind of see if the proportions are right, see what it looks like from far away. But yeah, I'm working on the ground a lot. A lot of people ask me if that's difficult because I need depth perception, to make sure what I'm doing looks okay from when you stand back and look from it. And for me, I think I've built up so much this depth perception over time. I just have a good sense of it's going to look okay. I don't need to keep getting up and looking at this picture. I already kind of have it in me because of the thousands of hours that I've put into collage over the past few years. So yeah, it's exciting every time I do a new picture. It's like, I don't know how it's going to turn out, but yeah, I get excited every time it does.
Excellent, excellent, excellent. Here's one for you. Any collaborative projects on the horizon?
Trying to think here. I haven't really had that opportunity. I think once I get, like, one of my goals is to get into my favorite magazine that I use, which is W Magazine. And I just love that, like, all the textures and the colors. It's just such a great magazine. And I really want to get in there, get featured. And I think once I get featured, I can have those collaborations open up, because I love to work with people. I love to work with some iconic companies, and I don't know what's going to happen, but I'm really open to different collaborations. I just haven't really had the opportunity yet. Been focusing on building up my own collection, so I haven't really reached out to people. And I think that's part of being an artist. You can kind of veer off and not really be working on what you should. There's a right time for everything. And I don't want to be working for someone else's dreams when I'm still working for my own, which is why I always had a day job. I didn't want to work for like another creative agency growing up. I work in hospitality, by the way. So I think at the end of the day, if I were to work for someone else and extract my creative ideas for them, at the end of the day, I wouldn't be able to create what I do and have this amazing collection over the past few years. So I've always been pretty stubborn about not working for a creative agency or doing anything that that takes me away from my art. I worked in hospitality because it makes me have a hunger to do my art at the end of the day. I'm not using my creative energy to put into some job or whatever, because I think there only is so much, you can have. And I always want to save that for myself, and I have. So I think my strategy has worked, and it's made me grow hungry for building up my own talent and my own skill set over the past several years. I would love to work with people. I've donated my art to some charities that I'm passionate about. So yeah, I feel like it's changing the world right now, and in a microcosm, I guess you could say. But it's definitely a start. And one of my favorite quotes is from that guy on Shark Tank, Damon John. He said, "Be a local hero." So I always think about that when I'm building up my social capital within my local community and displaying in so many art walks throughout my city. I think about that, and that's the foundation you need if you want to go far. Outside that, you need that internal support and foundation of the people around you in your local community.
Yes, 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 yes. Um, are you familiar at all, Whitney, with Art Basel?
Oh yes. I was thinking about getting in with them, but about it's pretty much all of Art Basel is being represented by a gallery. So
Mm.
it's not individual artists, it's galleries representing individual artists. And that's the whole thing with Art Basel. They rent out like $50,000 spaces. So it's an extremely expensive enterprise, and you already have to be involved with the gallery. Um, I am represented by a couple galleries, but they don't go to Art Basel. That would be a goal of mine now, is to be represented down there someday and see what happens.
That's definitely going to go down. They will love you up, not only in Miami, but the international locations that they do host the event.
Yeah, yeah. I guess the main one is in Switzerland.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but my goal is to go back to Europe. I went over there 2 years ago. They paid for my way, and they paid to have my art up. It's amazing. It was an island off of Sweden, and my great great grandfather originated from there. So it was really special to display some art in that country. But I want to go back to Europe. I have Copenhagen on my mind. I have Berlin, which is a very artsy city. I'd be really open to a variety of places. I just need that one connection, that one person to introduce me to someone who can take me seriously. Because it always helps, like, to have people introduce you to more important people than you actually reach out to that important person, like cold call. It just legitimizes you if you have that intermediary person there. So that's why I'm all about making connections with people I don't know where it's going to lead or who they're going to introduce me to.
That's the
At the end of the
cosign,
day,
Whitney.
huh?
That's the cosign that every creative is looking for, in all forms, is you who can co-sign this, because whoever can co-sign this can introduce me. But you being a yacht stewardess, and this is the thirst in me, okay? Because I'm a thirsty type of guy who, whatever we have to do, we're going to get it done. But do you ever take your art to work with you, since you are around all these wealthy people, and say, I'm going to switch out a painting?
Oh yeah, I do. I definitely slide in, my plug. I plug myself all the time. I try to do in the most smooth manner because I'm on there to, like, serve and whatnot. But they start asking you about yourself, and that's what you say. For instance, this summer, I got a commission from a very prominent Seattle family to do the Seattle skyline, and I'd never done an architectural collage before, and it turned out really well. So yeah, I'm definitely building up my name in certain areas, and yeah, I just don't know what's going to happen. Like, it helps being in these scenarios as a yacht stewardess. You're meeting prominent people, and down the road they could utilize my skills. Not everyone has commissioned me, but I think it just takes time. And at the end of the day, I'm just a fisherman's daughter. I grew up in a fishing village in the summers, like helping my dad fish. So, like, I never had pop cultural connections. And I asked myself, like, why would I be given this gift and, this whole connection with Andy Warhol if I was, born in Alaska to this fisherman? It just doesn't make sense. And I think that's part of the hustle, like, God puts blocks or, roadblocks in your way in order for you to test yourself and make sure this is really what you want. So I think just over the years, me, like, not having, the most broad prominent connections of people. I think just being in yachting, I think that's helped get me there. But, also yacht people, it's interesting because they have the most under the radar businesses. They're not pop icons at all. So it's not like they know these people, but I think it's all going to work out, and it has been working out. It's just a matter of time. So yeah, it's interesting, the course of my life and the choices I've made to reach certain individuals and
Whitney, do you ever bring, like, so sometimes you might know what yacht you're going to be on. Do you ever like ask and say, can I put my art up, or even your little portraits that people can buy on your website? Spreading the postcards even around where maybe before they even get there, the art is there and people can kind of look and see, and they never have to know it's you. I mean, that's how, what I mean, thirsty, how I would like be. I'm like, I remember doing this with magazines and being at press junkets and making sure everybody has a magazine of a cover story that I did on whatever artist. Does it ever get to that point where you're able to do that without being fired, of course? I mean, sometimes you might have a cool boss, sometimes you might have to do it on the low, but I just want my stuff to be exposed.
Yeah, I definitely have that fire in me to do that. It's just when you're on someone's private yacht and whatnot, you need to be careful. But yeah, I totally get it. I have my phone on me, and I always show them pictures from my phone. Mm-hmm. And some of the people I've worked with have seen it in person, so it's hard because obviously my originals are too big. But yeah, I need to like implement like more literature, like printed out stuff, for sure, especially for the old school crowd. I think they appreciate that. Postcards and stuff. I think that's a great idea.
Okay, yeah, and I'm just, like I said, I'm putting myself in your shoes of, I'm around all this money. What can I do? Because I mean, you're on the you're not even at your peak yet. So when you first, when you sell your first, whether it's $100,000 or $1 million piece, life and your brain can be like, wait, hold on. I don't have to worry too much anymore. My art is selling. So, you then kind of get and look back. And then some artists, when they make, they become successful, they can't create anymore. Like Andre 3000. He can't make music anymore because his belly isn't hungry. So I'm just.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. So
did he do that party song with Beyonce?
The most recent one, A.L will know all about that if Andre 3000 did that. I'm gonna let him speak on that.
Him and
I like that song. He needs to make more songs.
Yeah, every I want to say maybe 2 or 3 years or so, he kind of pops up and features on somebody else's song. And interesting tidbit, he was apparently he has a townhouse or some type of apartment in downtown New York City, and caught him hanging out earlier this year. Just
wow!
Walking among people, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Huh, that's so funny.
Was he playing the flute?
No, he wasn't. He wasn't playing the flute. He's super eccentric and eclectic, but yeah, he was just hanging out.
That's funny. Yeah, no, I definitely, people have commented and like sent me messages, and I like, sorry, thank you so much, for, showing your beautiful talent to the world. Keep doing it. Keep staying hungry. And I hear that from people, and I don't think that's just coming at me coincidentally. I mean, I think it's, God uses people to propel you in certain ways, and it's like, it's so important just the fact of being hungry is what propels everyone who's accomplished anything great in life. You have to struggle. You have to crawl before you can walk. You have to walk before you can run. Like I have this, I've written a lot of poetry too, and I kind of liken it to this one poem I wrote. And I said something like, some people are handed the kerosene and light their fire in one day, and some people are handed sticks and they have to work on building their fire over time. But everyone gets a chance to create their, have an impact on people and create this fire in their life. So in some respects, I definitely have not been handed kerosene, that's for sure. But I have to have sticks because, like, I didn't realize I was going to be at the skill level. I didn't realize I was even going to be doing collage, in my 20s. I discovered it a few years ago. So, you don't know what's on your horizon and why you've realized the process has been slower than you thought, and this is the reason why, the reasons become apparent over time, and you realize things are not in your timing. I get kind of nervous. I mean, when I think about people who set goals, and I think goals are really good and I think you can attain them, but at the end of the day, we're not in control of our lives. Like all these books out there that say, oh, this is how you do this is how you make your first million. Like, people have done that. That's great. But I don't know. I just think that's not the hard, fast rule in life. I think we're not completely in charge of our destinies. But I think I think that you can have goals and then maybe you don't accomplish those, but you find something parallel to it, that type of deal. As long as I'm not saying like people should have that fire in them. They should have that organizational stuff. Like, I want to achieve this, and that. Yes, like still have that. But I wanted to so intensely achieve some things in life that I haven't yet. And it's like, why? Like, it makes me question life and just God sometimes. And I'm realizing that he's wielding that disappointment for power later on. Like, it's for the power of something else that I don't even see over the horizon yet. Like, wielding disappointment to show his power later on. That's kind of the way I look at things like that. And it makes me realize who's really in charge too. So, when you don't accomplish everything on your list, but it can spill over to other things, just wanting it. And that's kind of my take on that.
Excellent. Whitney, with all of our guests that we have here on Diversified Game, we really like to, not only touch upon the mind, but we also like to touch upon the heart. So outside of what you do art-wise, are there any things community-wise that interest you? And if so, do you have a community give back that you participate in? Or
well, like I said, I've done I've donated some work to charities, and I have a real passion for horses because I've done several horse collages. So, I think just giving back to the equestrian community is really big for me. I also have been working, with a lady out of Texas who's involved with child like combating child sexual trafficking, and that's such a huge ongoing thing in this country, and I'd love to get more involved with that, and I'm currently working with her on something. So I'd love to raise money through my art to help those people who are in really bad circumstances like that, and my heart goes out to them. So yeah, I think with horses and then sex trafficking, I hope to get more involved with those. And if anyone has any organizations or people they can introduce me to that would take art, that do like dinner auction galas, definitely reach out to me for sure.
Well, definitely, Whitney. Thank you for coming on, being a guest. I hope everyone got the game. We like to make this thing simple and plain, a conversation that can be heard around the nation. I want you guys to go check out WhitneyLAnderson.com. Like I said, all the links will be in the description box. Follow her on Instagram. See her website and make a purchase, because you have to think, with the digital age, magazines one day won't be here. I remember writing for over a dozen of them. They won't be here in this art. Yeah. Somebody in the future is going to say, what was that made off? I mean, think about beta.
Oh, Kellen, yeah. I totally think about that. I like subconsciously, it's like, oh, I have such a plethora of magazines right now. Like, does this even mean anything? And like, wait a minute, in the future, are we even going to have these things? And yeah, I completely get where your mind's at.
Yes, and thank you, because many of folks don't get it. They say I'm on Mars, but that's okay. I'm out of the solar system. It's fine. It works for me, like this works for you. So I want to make sure everybody, they like, they share, they subscribe, they see the beautiful imagery. And Whitney, I can't wait to see more of your stuff. I can't wait for you and A.L. to take a picture together. And this is how just traction moves. Nobody is special, people. We're all just working.
That's so true. Yeah. March 5th, New York Art Center on Thursday, March 5th. It's the first Thursday art walk they do there. So hundreds of people show up, and it's going to be an exciting time. And my work will be displayed for that month there. I will have Tupac, Biggie, Derek Jeter. I'll have several iconic people displayed there. So I'm super excited.
All right. Well, thank you for being a guest. I hope you have a blessed day. We are out for Diversified Game. You guys, thank you for listening. Be blessed.
Kellen?